So this will be the Python calculator project step number 2, or lesson number 2. We're going to continue on with where we are at. You'll notice that if you go to the Google Classroom, you'll have the Python calculator project now. I've put some of the things that we're going to do. So let's take it. One of the first things we want to do is create some global variables. And so the global variables we're going to need is one that's going to be the final answer. And the final answer is what we calculate. So if we punched in 2 plus 2, final answer is going to store the value of the first input plus the second input. Another variable we're going to make is going to be the first number. So the first number we enter, we want to store that and keep that stored somewhere. Finally, a second number, again, want to store that. And then a third one is going to be the operation. And so I'll call that variable probably operation. And what I want to do is I'm going to assign it a 1, 2, 3, or 4. But instead of just assigning it a 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm going to make a global variable, a global constant. And Python doesn't really have constant variables. So what a constant variable is in most programming languages is like a variable that's locked. Once you give it a value, its value never changes. And so what I do myself is I capitalize the variable name. So if I ever see when I'm typing a variable that's all capitalized, I know I'm not supposed to change it. Even though it's just a variable and technically it's still possible to change it, I know I just don't change it. And that way it works like a constant variable. So if something's in all caps, it's not yelling, it's just saying, hey, this is a constant, don't change it, but use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say operation equals, and then multiplication if I multiply, division if I press the division button, addition if I press the addition button, and subtraction if I press the subtraction button. So let's start by setting up the variables just like they said there. So here's what we've done so far. And you'll see we've got the buttons set up and the text box. And so typically I'm going to put those global variables fairly close to the top here. So I might put them right up here. So I'm going to say the first number, I'll define the first number here. And I'm just going to set everything, initialize everything to 0. The second number is going to be 0. The operation is going to equal 0. And the fourth variable that we needed, let's call final answer. And I'm going to set that to 0. So everything is sort of set to 0 as it's initialized. Okay, then I was going to make those constants. So again, arbitrarily, I say multiplication is equal to 1, division is equal to 2, subtraction. And again, it doesn't really matter what these are. What I'm going to use these for is to make it easier to read. So in my if statements, I'm going to say if operation equals multiplication, multiply. And so it really doesn't matter what the value is. I could give this value 44. But in keeping things simple and readable, I'll just use a number 3. And then finally, what one am I missing? Multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. Great. So I've set those up, and we're ready to go. So what's the next part? The next part is setting up the functions. So one of the things that you may have noticed or seen in the code, and I really want to direct your attention to it, is when we made the number 7 button, for example. So I called it BTN 7, and it's going to be the button widget. And you can see it's in the window. It's going to have some text on the button, and it's got some padding, and it's got a font. There's this thing here at the end, though, that you're like, what? I don't really know what it is, but it says command equals button clicked. What this means is that when I click on the button, it's going to do that function. So just to show you what we could do here is I wrote some code on there that's we can test to see if it works. So for example here, you'll see command equals button clicked. So I'm going to define a function called button clicked. So when command is executed, so when you click on the button, it's going to do whatever's in this function. And so I gave you some code in the tutorial to type in, and it's right here. So button clicked. So what I want to do is clear the text display. So to clear the text display, I can go text display.delete, start from character 0, comma, go to the end of the display. So delete everything from 0 to end. Then if I want to put something in the text box, and normally if I press the 1 button, I'd want to add a 1 to it. But in this case, just to test it out, what I want to do is I'm going to say text display.insert. So that's going to insert into the text display, starting at position 0. And then I put a comma and the string that I want to put in the text display. So let's just run this. And what you're going to see when I run the program is here's my calculator. And if I punch a button like 8, it's going to the command is going to be button clicked. And so it's going to run that function button clicked. And notice it says hello world. Now, eventually, I'm going to want to make it say 8. But I just wanted to see that it worked, that when I click a button, something happens. And in this case, something goes into the display. Click 9 and you'll see hello world pops up again. So I don't want to do that. And probably some of you are thinking, oh, great. What I want to do is button clicked. All I need to do is put in some sort of variable. Let's call it my var. And then what I want to do is I want to insert my var to it. I think, great. So all I need to do is add some sort of argument like my var. But you're going to see there's no parentheses here. Normally when we call a function, we put parentheses. So there is a way around it. And what happens is with tkinter, you can't do that in a button. You're not allowed to pass arguments. So you say, well, now what do you do? And here is the answer. So pay very close attention here as I talk about what to do. So what you need to do is we're going to use a command called lambda. And what lambda is lambda is a special function, which is like a one-liner function. So it's a function inside a function, and it doesn't need any arguments. So lambda is just like saying, go do something. And what are you going to do? You can tell it what you want it to do. So in button 1, for example, what I want to do is I want to say button clicked and press the value of 1 in there. So put the value of 1 in there. And so what we're going to do, and you're going to be upset if you do this first, I'm going to make you rewrite all of the number buttons. And if I click on 0, I want to put a 0 in there. And if I click on a button 2, I want to put a 2 in there, and so on. Let's run the program now. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass the string 0. So my var is going to be 0. And then the text will be cleared, and then we're going to put whatever I type in there. So people say, great, let's see this in action. So let's see it in action. So I've only done a couple of buttons, but I did the 0, and you'll notice when I press 0, a 0 goes in there. When I press 1, a 1 goes in there. But you'll probably say, oh, shoot, there's something wrong. If I press 1, 0, it only puts just the one character. How do I add additional characters to it? And again, I gave you some, what we're going to do is we need to temporarily store the value that was previously in there. And then we need to put that, clear the display, put that in there, and then add to it what the button was that we pressed. So a little complex, but let me just show you what we're going to do next. So what we're going to do next is in button clicked, we're going to pass a button value. So I could have called it my var, but I made a variable called button value. I thought that sounds a little better. And so what we're going to do is we first need to say the current display. So what is currently in the text box? And we're going to use a function called get. So text display.get. And, well, actually, I guess that's a method. So the method .get is going to get whatever is in the text box. And then erase the text box. So we erase the text box just like we did previously. And then I'm going to insert the current display plus whatever the button that you pressed was. So really fairly straightforward. So we pass a value, we get what's in the display, we clear the display, and then we repopulate the display with what was in it plus the button value that we had just passed. And so far I've only done 0, 1, 2. In a second I'm going to have to go through and do all the buttons. So now I'm going to run the program again, and we're going to see that if I type in 10, it's going to say 1 and then 0. And then did I do 2 as well? Yeah. So all these buttons will just keep adding to the display. Great. Now we need to set up the add, deduct, multiply, and divide. So we're going to finish the rest of the buttons, and you can do that on your own. How are we going to do the next step, which is doing the add, deduct, multiply, and divide? So your next objective here is we are going to need to clear the display. And we're also, again, going to need to use the lambda function, because this time we're not going to pass to the display a number. We're going to need to pass to the display the operation. Okay? And so what we need to do is I put some things in here for you to try, and I'll let you just sort of read through this and try it. So this gives you lots to do today. Again, if you want, just keep going through my tutorial, and you can get through this part of the project.